After over a year in Jacksonville, they are finally back out on the road. And man, this was certainly a show for the ages, wasn't it? I'm Charles Renton with my review of AEW Dynamite Road Rager Edition. They are 5 hours from Jacksonville in Miami, Florida. And I will say this, there are a few positives. The crowd was pretty goddamn hot, and despite the fact that there are the after effects of Tropical Storm Elsa, they only had, a bit of production glitch with one power outage and then one that was planned. And I am going to have some positive things to say here. I'm also going to have some things I'm absolutely going to shit on, because just because they're in a different venue doesn't mean that the overbooking and the nonsense and the bullshit has quit. I get that they're trying to juice things up. They're trying to have big shows, especially since they've been in Jacksonville and they could only have, a large number of fans for the last couple of months because of the pandemic. But man, I really hope that they tone some shit down, because if they keep hot-shotting like this, they're going to burn the crowds out really goddamn fast. That being said, positive, there are some positives here. So, the stage looked great, the set looked great, the crowd was really electric. Dun 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 dun. Anyway, adrenaline in my soul, insurrection out of control. It's the man who ended racism, Cody Rhodes. He ended so much goddamn racism, they didn't have any time for QT Marshall to get a goddamn intro. Not that QT really deserves an intro, because nobody gives a shit about this goddamn feud. And there's nothing against Cody, it's nothing against QT as a worker. As far as wrestlers, Cody's really good. He tries to do way too much shit that he looks uncomfortable doing. And QT can wrestle, but he isn't interesting. And it's a South Beach strap match and jumpstart. QT tries a moonsault on to absolutely nowhere. It wasn't as bad as Tom Zank to Brian Lee on that Clash of Champions in 1990, in November of 1990 specifically. But he just does it, and then Cody whips him. And you have to touch all four corners in succession. All right, so Aaron Solo interferes. Dustin gloms him, and they just fight off. Not even 5 minutes in, and we got goddamn, stuff happening outside the fucking ring. Seriously, show some fucking restraint. Do less of that every single show, and then when you do it, either on a special Dynamite or a pay-per-view, it'll mean something. God damn it. Anyway, so they do the corner stuff. We get a low blow by QT. The lights out. It's because, and Cody was all confused, and thankfully the lights did not stay out very long. I think it was like, 5 to 10 seconds. And then QT hits a powerbomb off the ropes. And then later, Cody fires up and hits 3 crossroads and touches all 4 corners to win. Okay, that's the end of that feud. Oh wait, he hasn't faced Solo and Camarado in singles matches, which means that this feud will go on forever. Forever and a day, that's never. So, the announcers run down the card. We have a Spirits pre-tape where basically he's talking about Sammy, like, he beat him up and everything, and then they do this cartoonish bullshit where he looks, oh no, this chair flies at me, Acme style. And then Sammy gets on the chair and says, this will never be over. It'll never be over, Ole Anderson. So, Omega's and Zubas, and Don Scarlet Fever Callis is back, and the crowd was chanting, you got fired. That was pretty goddamn funny. Real men don't quit, they get fired. Don, if you were a real man, you wouldn't do that to women, allegedly. You would be a man, but you're not a man. Your invisible hands have been everywhere. I hope that the women's roster just slaps him repeatedly until he runs out like the cowardly bitch he is. So, there's no one left for Omega to face. And the crowd's chanting, we want Hangman, cowboy shit. And the Dark Order show up. And Uno is talking to Omega. They're basically repeating the same thing, except Omega says, hey, what's the capital of Thailand? Oh, of course, it's Bangkok. And he low blows him. And then the Good Brothers, home of the Good Brothers, may we take your order. And all the, the goons just glom the other goons. And then Page comes out to a huge fucking pop, despite all the bullshit they've done with Adam Hangman Page. And I'm not saying the booking's been the absolute worst. Oh, they're saying, well, he's been friends with him and this intricate storytelling. If you want to buy into it totally, that's fine. I'm not saying that these guys aren't friends and they don't want to book their friends properly. I just don't trust Tony Khan to really do long-term storytelling. Long-term storytelling is happening in spite of the fact that it's being booked by a guy that's on the Herb Abrams diet. Let's hear it, and he's about to say that on a pay-per-view. So, Page does clean house. He teases, hey, in the buckshot lariat on Omega, and that's it. JR then does a sit-down interview, pre-tape with Darby and Ethan. They go over their history. Darby knocks Ethan Page for staying in one place, wrestling for 12 years. He succeeded more in one than Ethan achieved in 12, and that Ethan procreated and had kids and stayed in one place. Bit weird to say that, but the coffin match is next week because Darby didn't touch him here. The match might be good. I mean, I actually was sent, some full matches on YouTube, like ones that they've had over the years and on indies. And look, they work well together. I just don't care about Ethan. I love Darby. I love Darby. Don't get me wrong. But it is what it is. So we get FTR and Wardlow with Tully versus Santana, Ortiz, and Hager with Konnan. Jake Hager is what a pair of Dockers would be in human form. He's just bland, uninteresting. He shouldn't fucking be there. He's as good as he's going to get. So they've done this whole feud backwards. I've said it before, I'll say it again. If they had saved Blood and Guts until All Out in Chicago, people would have got... I mean, I'm not saying people didn't love it, and there were some good parts. And I'm glad that nobody got seriously hurt, except that, the way they filmed that finish, it was stupid. Check out my review of that if you want to hear my full thoughts. But this particular feud, if they had done, the skirmishes, they had done, where the Pinnacle beat them up, and then the week before, or like the week before, Inner Circle had gotten revenge and then said, we challenge you to Stadium Stampede. They said, fine, if we win, you have to break up. And then Inner Circle wins, and then they do these singles matches, and then they go to Blood and Guts. But they've done the whole damn thing backwards. WWE's done a whole lot of their feuds backwards, and it's been ridiculous. You can't do the hot, big matches just to pop a rating. That's what WCW did, and it eventually cost them. And they're not even getting ratings as good as WCW got for Thunder, and Thunder was their C show. It wasn't even a good show. But anyway, Hager just is incredibly uninteresting. The rest of the guys did what they could. FTR and Santana and Ortiz could have a nice series of matches if they cut down on the bullshit. And so Wheeler was selling his ankle at one point because Hager got the ankle lock on him, and the referee distraction, the big rig on Hager, and Wardlow covers 1, 2, 3. We get an aftermath where Konnan hits him with the slapjack or whatever the fuck they're calling it, and totally clips him. We're getting an 8-man tag at some point. Watch them do another Blood and Guts with all these guys. And have Konnan and Tully in a cage match in 2021. It was alright, but it wasn't great. But it wasn't offensive, except for the fact Jake Hager is still allowed in the wrestling ring in 2021. So, Carl Anderson and Jon Moxley are going to face off for the IWGP US Championship next week. And Anderson recounts the time with the Bullet Club, back before it was a t-shirt brand. And I remember being so excited when the Good Brothers, home of the Good Brothers, May We Take Your Order, ended up leaving WWE. I mean, I felt bad because they got talked into signing big contracts, and I felt bad for them. And look, maybe they can actually still be good wrestlers. They are comedy goofs. I can't fucking stand. I don't want to fucking see them anymore. They got their fans. That's fine. They did do the whole beat up John Cena thing, except they said beat up John Moxley. It was what it was. MJF and Jericho have a face-to-face. The Miami fans are cheering the guy whose wife and mother-in-law were around the Capitol building on January 6th. And no, I'm not going to forget that, and neither should you if you care about human decency and democracy. Jericho can go piss up a goddamn rope. Anyway, so a fan tried to run in the ring because they had MJF come out first and then they went to break. So I imagine MJF was just firing everybody up. Let me just say right now, the fan tried to storm the ring like Jericho's mother-in-law and wife wanted to storm the Capitol. And no, again, not going to forget that. And like Jericho, who donated thousands of dollars to Trump. And that proves that he's a piece of shit and doesn't care about women, doesn't care about human rights. And I fucking hate him. And, the day that he retires, I won't shed a goddamn tear. But MJF fired the guy up. Fans shouldn't run the goddamn race into the goddamn ring. I rewatched the Hogan's heel turn, the formation, the NWO, and they clipped the guy that ran into the ring. I wish that they had just kicked that guy to the point that his head had just fucking smashed. That's what should happen to fans that run the goddamn ring on wrestling shows. And I know it happened in the territory days because they took it seriously, but that's really goddamn dumb. You deserve to get your ass fucking handed to you for doing that. But Y2J died a long time ago, he says to the fans, and he says, I'm Chris Jericho, I'll do this, and I'll even have sex with your mother again. And, they draw that stuff out. But this at least was a little bit better than some MJF and Jericho stuff. MJF did say, remember what you did to Mox, made him face, all the members of the Inner Circle to get his shot and stuff like that. I'm taking your blueprint and adding my own twist to it. The 5, labors of Hercules. 4 opponents of my choosing. And if you win, which you won't, you finally get to face me. Okay, fair. It's going to be members of the Pinnacle. It might actually even be, it probably will be members of the Pinnacle. And he'll end up beating all of them, which is what he'll have to face FTR in a handicap match, and they'll do something where they get glommed, and one of them gets glommed and taken out after a ref bump, and then Jericho hits a juice effect on another. Watch that actually happen. So anyway, Jericho accepts the challenge. MJF says, well, where I come from, it's not a deal until we shake on it. Shake my hand. He does. And then he hits a juice effect on him. Jericho hits a juice effect on MJF. And then Britt and Reba are in a pre-tape. I hope the Reba/Rebel, whatever her name is, she recovers from her dislocated knee. But since she's had knee issues before, I'm worried that something's going to happen again. Britt did mention about, maybe talk about Vicky, managing Nyla trying to take her out, and then Andrade and says, hey, enjoy your blood money. Maybe next week AEW will run a show in Saudi Arabia. Oh, that was funny. Now, the Khans ain't exactly clean either, given the dealings they had and given the money they've donated to Trump and given the dealings they've done with other countries. But it's still nice to see that people aren't forgetting that WWE's hands aren't clean either. That line was funny. I don't mind the occasional line. That was good for what it was. Andrade with the useless Vicky Guerrero. She wanted a wall built around this match. She can suck fucking eggs for all I care. So, Andrade took on... I'm just calling him Andrade. I know he's Andrade El Idolo, but I'm calling him Andrade because it's easier. Took on Matt Sydal. Look, they pout for Andrade's shit. And Seidel's really good, but every time he had a move, he got booed because... even though Andrade's supposed to be the heel, he's a new guy for the audience. And nothing against Seidel. Seidel's very good. This is a way for Andrade to get over. Hit the hammerlock DDT 1, 2, 3. Then he got his belt off and did a Hispanic hostile tourniquet. Where I thought that we were going to get, somebody being tortured right here because he had the strap on his arm and he was going to choke him out and stuff like that and everything. So are they going to have another strap match? Hell, they've already overbooked so many goddamn things, so why not? This was fine. Arn then gets interviewed by Shivani. He gets, it's great to be back in Miami. And then says something like, well, let's get down to business to defeat the Huns. And then the lights go out. And I'm like, oh, great, another thing where the tropical storm. And then I'm like, no, this is out longer. The crowd pops. It's Tommy End. Or Malakai Black. Malakai. Man, he left being the leader of the Children of the Corn because it wasn't paying the goddamn bills. Because none of those movies are any fucking good. And he went to Miami. Miami Malakai. Did you ever see that? That movie is fucking shit. All those Children of the Corn movies are absolute shit. I'm a horror fan, and I hated them. Malakai. So anyway, he then kicks Arn with the Black Mass or the Malakai Mass. The Malakai Black Mass. MBM. Sounds like a weird computer program. And then Cody runs in. Because, of course, Cody runs in. Because you hurt my coach. It looks like a couch. And then got kicked with the Black Mass. And watch Alistair Kai. Sounds like King Kai. Tries, watch Tommy N lose in 3 weeks. Fucking hell. It's too many goddamn names. Watch him lose to Cody in 3 weeks. Now, I hope I'm wrong. But in all honesty, I'm not too optimistic because I'm just afraid, they'll have Cody beat him, and then he's not going to mean anything. And he didn't really mean anything the last couple of years. He was in WWE, to be fair, because of the pandemic and injuries and stuff like that. But if he's happy here, good. I hope they gave him a shit pot full of money, and I hope they gave him the ability to do his thing. Am I optimistic? Not really, because I did see the little, 5-minute direct to DVD, direct to streaming horror thing that he did, and it was shit. Now, I know it's supposed to explain his character, but you know what? It was still really badly done. But he probably funded it, and he obviously had fun doing it. Anyway, earlier tonight, this is obviously, I think, filmed for Dark, but Starks is on has security. He's going to face Cage next week because he's injured. And then Team Taz is out there. Well, Hook and Hobbs, and apparently they were chanting Big E at Hobbs, so the crowds are definitely back. And they were chanting ECW at Taz. And then Cage gets in there, the other Cage gets in there and lays out security. And then we get the Blade and the Bunny versus Orange Cassidy and Statlander. I would like to make an amendment that apparently I was misinformed. Statlander is not dating Orange Cassidy. She's dating Caleb Conley, Caleb with a K. To be fair, the way she acts around Orange Cassidy, I thought they might have been dating. I would like to apologize for that. That being said, Statlander, damn, she looks good. Bunny, damn, she looks good. Only one of them can wrestle. The Bunny's appeal outside of her antics stops when she tries to do stuff. She's not the worst. She's not very good, though. And for how long she's been wrestling, I'm sorry, she's not very good. Blade, he at least took off the flesh apron. That's good. The crowd pop for Cassidy and Statlander, well, sort of for Statlander. We get a German suplex off the ropes by Allie. So that was actually pretty cool. I will give her props for that. And they were popping for Orange Cassidy like crazy. We do get a 450 splash by Statlander on the Blade. Area 451, which I like that. It was excellent wordplay. And then Big Bang Theory 1, 2, 3. This is after a Nux shot, and Statlander tagged an unconscious Orange Cassidy and then hit the Big Bang Theory on the bunny 1, 2, 3. All right. I mean, it was fine. Certainly wasn't the worst fucking thing I saw on the show. Shivani gets interrupted by Dan Lambert, who apparently runs America Top Team. I think he was the guy that was in Impact Wrestling for a little bit. Correct me if I'm wrong. But there's this Jorge guy that I didn't catch the last name. And Amanda Nunes. Amanda Nunes is going to get into wrestling. And Amanda Nunes is going to be really good at it. Because Amanda Nunes is a fucking beast in the cage. Sure, she's lost fights. She also hits like a fucking tank. And she's goddamn good. This guy knocks AEW. And just, I didn't, at first I didn't know who he was. Somebody had to tell me who he was. Because I didn't watch that much of Impact. But then, you can tell the guy was a wrestling fan. Because he says, if I want to watch wrestling, then I would have to pop in some old Championship Wrestling from Florida VHS tapes, which is funny because I just watched some stuff from Championship Wrestling from Florida, Battle of the Belts, 1, 2, and 3. They're available on YouTube. Just search them. Really, really, it was a cool time capsule, even if the matches were kind of except for the main event. But he just says the wrestling's gone down the toilet since the late 1990s. He's knocking it, and he says, man, all the stuff that Tony Khan talked about, he invited us and everything, he's just knocking him. Yes, it was a work shoot promo, but the guy's a hell of a performer, did some great shit. This was really, really good stuff. Did I get caught up in it? Sure. Was it the greatest promo I've heard? No, but it was pretty goddamn good. It stuck out. This guy that hadn't really been on a wrestling program for a number of years and was only occasionally there when he was, cut one of the best promos in recent AEW memory. And then Archer comes out and just knocks him out and then lays him out with the blackout. Because why not? Amanda Nunes versus Lance Archer, please. Give me that. That would work. It would be somewhat believable. Actually, I might have to take Amanda in that. But anyway, next week, Fyter Fest. I think, are they in Austin, Texas next week? I think they're in Austin, Texas. I think they're in Dallas the following week. But anyway, Darby versus Ethan in the coffin match. Brian Cage versus Ricky Starks for the FTW Championship. Remember, that championship that meant absolutely fucking nothing. And then Penelope versus Yuka Sakazaki, the Genie Girl. Okay, I know that I tend to knock comedy, but Yuka Sakazaki, since she's not in the championship picture, she's inoffensive to me, and I find her interesting. And Penelope, good to see she's being featured on Dynamite, because she has improved. Hangman speaks. He'll probably get 3 words out and then get interrupted. And then Mox versus Anderson for the IWGP US Championship. Don't you fucking dare give it to Carl Anderson. Give it to somebody interesting, which is the opposite of Carl Anderson. So, Eddie Kingston and Penta with Alex Abrahantes versus the Insufferbucks with Cutler, Naka, who got knocked the fuck out. Thank fucking God, I fucking hate that guy. At least on a wrestling program. And Don Scarlet Fever Callis joins commentary. It's a street fight for the AEW Tag Team Championships, and I was afraid that this was going to be a mess. But I was like, okay, it might not be that bad, and within 3 minutes, I knew that I wasn't going to like it, but I'm like, you know what? I've been wrong before. I've been, brought into Bucks matches before, and it got worse, and it got worse, and before I continue, this is what I fucking thought of this match. If you guys like this match, great. Seriously, fucking great. I hope that you guys enjoyed it, because I love Eddie. I met Penta a couple years ago. Penta's a great guy. Penta's great, whether he's in front of 500 people, 5,000 people, doesn't matter. Eddie is great. His offense is unique. The Bucks can have really good matches. But guess what? This was rushed. It was sloppy. There were already, there were the streamers there. The streamers factored in. The streamers never got cleaned up anywhere. We get a jump start, car crash instantly. Nakazawa got knocked out. Thank fuck. Idiot. That's nepotism right there. It's like, your friend. Oh, let's get my friend in here. Maybe he's a nice guy. Don't fucking feature him on camera. Anyway, we get chairs, we get tables. Kingston gets dropped onto the flat end of a table that's facing up. So the legs are laying down, so that must have hurt like a goddamn bitch. Not that landing through a breakaway table necessarily feels good. And then Penta, right after that happens, does a destroyer to the other Buck on the outside. And then is up within seconds and gets kicked in the head when he's holding a garbage can by the other Buck that pushed Kingston off like that. And okay, cool. More video game bullshit. We get cold spray by Cutler because he's trying to help somebody out. Oh, I'm gonna help in cold spray. And then we get more video game hardcore garbage. I can't stand the fucking garbage, the hardcore stuff. I couldn't stand it when it was in ECW because they overdid it, even though sometimes they did it well. WCW had a terrible hardcore division, even though they had some good wrestlers. And then WWE, sometimes our hardcore division was fun, but other times it got ridiculous. And look, adding more weapons doesn't mean that a street fight can actually be good. And this wasn't good. This got worse and worse and worse. Good fucking Lord, the cold spray shit. Oh no, he's not going to hold the buttons this time. They're trying to do comedy. This is even worse. It's taking forever. Despite the fact it felt rushed, it also felt like it was taking forever. Kazarian comes out in a hood. We knew it was Kazarian because he's the only guy that hadn't been featured on this show. He bombs Cutler through the table in a pretty stiff way. And then we get a second ref. By the way, there was a 450 to Rick Knox earlier, which maybe that will actually knock some sense into him, if you will, and he'll actually not act like a goddamn idiot during the Bucks matches. And I know that he's supposed to act like he doesn't know what's going on, but it makes him look like he shouldn't even be a goddamn referee. So anyway, 450 to the ref. The Good Brothers, by the way, have run in by this point as well. Kazarian then does the bomb to Cutler. There's too much to keep track of. We get a second ref. He gets pulled up by the Good Brothers. Home of the Good Brothers. Maybe we take your order. And then we get a Magic Killer to Kazarian. And then the thumbtacks get brought up. And that's where I was like, okay, this is one of the worst matches of the motherfucking year. I'm sick of the thumbtacks. Yes, Britt and Thunder Rosa brought him out. And that was a car crash, and that was a hardcore, mess, so to speak. But it made sense for the story. I enjoyed that, even if I thought they went a little bit too far. That fit the story there. This was just them, oh, let's do this stuff, like, let's show how tough we are and everything. And great, okay, Bucks, why don't you show that you can actually fucking wrestle? Anyway, the streamer full attacks to Eddie's face, and then we get Penta put onto the goddamn tacks. Eddie, gets beat up, and he throws Matt's body into the pin to break it up, and then we get tacks in the mouth, and then we get the kicks. 1, 2, 3, garbage, absolute fucking garbage. If they are going to continue to book crap like this, eventually they're going to burn out. They're only going to have the fans that they've had from the beginning, and I want AEW to succeed, but this is the kind of shit that makes me think, this company may not get a very good TV deal in 2023. I hope they do, because I want the wrestlers there to succeed. There are people there I root for, and I want the show to be good. And I will say that often the show isn't necessarily dull, but it all blends together. When you do run-ins after run-ins after run-ins, and you do the same shit, it gets old. It's the same in WWE, it's the same in AEW. It's getting fucking irritating. Anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Ritlin. I'll see you soon.